we just have gathered here to be in a conference about
digital journalism.
Digital journalism. Okay, thanks. And we are here with Javier. So please, first of all, introduce yourself a little bit.
Okay. My name is Javier Díaz-Noce. I was formerly a lecturer at the University of the Basque Country until 2008, and currently I'm full professor at Pompeu Fabra University in Barcelona.
Okay, all right. So now we are going to start with the questions. And first of all, how do you see the first interview? Do you think that it was interesting and necessary for us to know a little bit more about our daily life?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I mean, the approach of the conference as a whole, I find it very interesting because, especially during the first day and during the first morning, there is a couple of international scholars who give a broader approach and a broader insight to the trends of cyberjournalism. So I found it very interesting, yeah, really.
Do you think that our generation has like a play to role to go against the dark participation?
Definitely, you are probably the first generation which is fully digital native. You are born with computers and with smartphones, and this kind of technology, with social media and social networks and so on and so on. So it's up to you to create a new environment and to adapt to your own necessities. So yeah, it's up to your generation precisely to do that.
Okay, and we know that dark participation also tells a lot of critics and negative opinions. But do you think that nowadays that everything is so sensitive that is there something that has to be respect, or is something that you don't have to cross that line?
You never have to cross that line, definitely, because there are some rules and some ethics that are to be applied in the real world and in the online world as well. So, yeah, definitely the advantage of the internet and social networks is that they create a platform for participation. That's great, and a platform for creation and for sharing content, and that's great. The disadvantage is a misusage of all that. I mean, there is a field in which trolls can appear and which mispractice can be conducted. So it's difficult in such a large and huge digital global environment to respect all of them. But probably the solution will come from two sides. From one side, laws can be implemented to combat that, and on the other side, which is more important, ethics must be developed. So people should be aware that there's a great advantage for them or for us to participate or to use that technology, that platforms in a good way, and not to conduct bad behaviors, because it's dangerous for us all. So probably it's up to us, to the audience, to watch out all that, and to invite trolls to get out of that bad practices. I mean, there's a time in which is a transition. I mean, these kind of practices are not really new. They have appeared in the real world as well, but which happens with the digital world is that it amplifies it very much. So it's a common practice that we should make some kind of surveillance.
Mm-hmm. And as we already know, everybody has its opinion, but do you think that a lot of them are based on their ignorance, or do you think that we are well informed?
Yeah. It's usually said that opinion is very personal. It's like the eyes, everyone has one. I mean, and that's great. It's good to have an opinion. It's not so good to be opinionated. I mean, we need some kind of filters to let good opinions, I mean, really argued and elaborated opinions pass and reject badly argued or badly explained or incorrectly uh, placed opinions. I mean, but it's good to have an opinion. It's not too good to have any kind of opinion. And some research done on that show that the question is that people want to place their opinion, but it's much more difficult for the audience to remember and initiate a debate, a real discussion. I mean, people don't really hurt to each other on the internet, and that's a question which is interested for media, in my opinion. So media are obliged in some kind of way to filter that and to create the real environment. For instance, the New York Times do that very well. Le Monde in France do it very well. I mean, not everyone is allowed to send comments to the media. You have to provide your real name. When you provide your real name, and you don't hide behind a mask or behind a nickname. You're encouraged to place real, more elaborated opinions. That's great. So you have, at the end of the day, you have lesser opinions, lesser comments, but better ones. So I think that's the way to create filters and to create real control in some way environments, and not to leave a chaotic space for everyone to say any kind of things.
And in the conference also they were talking about alternative media and mainstream media.
Yeah.
Which one do you think that is most trustworthy?
Well, it's a good question. It depends on which medium we are talking about. I mean, there are mainstream media that have understood very well which is the sense and the real changes that the internet has made to the world. I mean, for instance, The Guardian in Great Britain and all over the world, and the New York Times, and some others which are mainstream media or legacy media as well. I mean, printed media that has been obliged to adapt themselves to the internet and the characteristics of the new environment, and some other ones that have reacted in a very conservative way. I mean, okay, our business is the printed paper, so we want to remain in that, and that's fashion. I don't know if you know a book. It's a very famous, a bestseller book in Spain called El Director, which is it's a novel by the former editor-in-chief of El Mundo, and he explains that he accepted the job because he wanted to make El Mundo a real digital medium, and he found a great resistance from the older journalists, and those old journalists' motto was I'm very tired of this nasty fashion of the internet. And he said, okay, this is not fashion, you have to understand it very well. This is not fashion, so you have to adapt. All of us have to adapt to the new environment, like it or not. So I don't distinguish between legacy media or mainstream media and more independent media. Which happens is that independent media or new media or digital-born media are definitely adapted to the new environment because they are born in this new environment. They are created for that. So there's not a question of adaptation, the question of finding a real business model for that. But at the end, the real question for mainstream media, for conservative media, for more adaptive media, for digital-born media, is to find a way of financing themselves very well, and they haven't. Unfortunately, there is not a definitive business model for online journalism. That's the question. They haven't found that. In my opinion, there are some media, for instance, The Guardian, which is a legacy medium, and in Spain, El Diario.es, which is a digital-born medium. Both of them have pretty smart, in my humble opinion, business model, which is membership, which is different from subscription. So they have a community, they have created a community of people who like the information they provide, and they give some advantages to them. So in one sense, I think that could be one solution for online journalism, not subscription. Well, not for everyone, because the New York Times has a very successful subscription model, but not anyone is in the New York Times. And I'm not sure if European online legacy media are aware of that they are not the New York Times.
Okay. And last question, do you think that media is under politicians' control, or do you think that they are independent?
Well, it depends on the country, it depends on the situation, it depends on the company, it depends on the media themselves. The political power has tried all along history to do that in many, many ways. So, yeah, of course, there are some relations, for good or bad, between the political power and the media, which at the end are profitable companies. At the end, they are looking for influence and for money, which is good. So yeah, there's an influence. It depends on which kind of influence we're talking about. There are a lot of models, and it would be very long to explain them all. For instance, but yeah, there is a relation of dependence at the end. For instance, in Catalonia and probably in the Basque Country as well, the public subsidies to the press is a very good way of controlling the ideology and the message of the press, in my opinion. I think that it can be arguable to defend that the press needs public subsidies, but public subsidies are not for all the time. I mean, it's a proportional solution, and not the solution for every problem of the press and for daily press mainly. But yeah, in our autonomous community, it happens. Yeah.
Okay, so that's all. Thanks for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you very much.
Vale, vas a hacer caso.
Yes.